Amazon RDS provides high availability and failover support for database instances using multi-AZ deployments with a single standby database instance. Again, this type of deployment is called a multi-AZ DB instance deployment and uses several different technologies to provide this failover support. Multi-AZ deployments for MariaDB, MySQL, Oracle, Postgres SQL, and RDS Custom for SQL Server DB instances use Amazon failover technology. So in a multi-AZ DB instance deployment, Amazon RDS automatically provisions and maintain a synchronous standby replica in a different availability zone. The primary DB instance is synchronously replicated across availability zone to a standby replica to provide data redundancy and minimize latency spikes during system backup. Running a DB instance with high availability can enhance availability during planned system maintenance. This is key, guys. It can also support and protect databases against instance failure and availability zone disruption. When you're managing databases, you can have planned outages and unplanned outages, right? So in this case, Amazon RDS will automatically switch the standby replica in another availability zone if you have turned on multi-AZ. Now the time that it takes to failover depends on the database activities and conditions at the primary database instance at the time the primary database instance became available, right? So you have to keep this in mind. Now failover times are typically anywhere between 60 seconds and 120 seconds. Now you have to keep in mind that databases deal with transactions, right? So if you have a large transaction running or a lengthy recovery process, then this could significantly increase the failover time. Now also when the failover process is complete, it can take some additional time for the RDS console to reflect the new availability zone. Again, RDS is a managed instance, so Amazon RDS manages failovers automatically, so you can resume database operations as quickly as possible without any administrative interventions, right? There are several things that can cause your instance to switch over automatically, right? This include the operating system underlying the RDS database instance is being patched in an offline operation. So this could trigger a failover within your maintenance window, right? The primary host of the RDS multi-AZ instance is in an unhealthy state. So the multi-AZ deployment can detect an impairment in the primary DB instance and then perform a failover. The primary host of the RDS multi-AZ DB instance due to loss of network connectivity. So RDS monitoring could detect network reachability failure to the primary database instance and trigger a failover. You, the customer, could also modify the database instance. So a modification as well could also trigger a failover. The RDS multi-AZ primary instance is busy and unresponsive. So for example, if you have ICP utilization, iMemory utilization, and your database instance become unresponsive for a while, then this could also trigger a failover. So now that you understand this theory, let's head over to the AWS console to get practical. So in this lesson, you'll be learning how to convert an existing DB instance into a multi-AZ deployment. So it's really simple, guys. You want to select your DB identifier. Here, my transport DB has been deleted, right? So select your DB identifier, then you go to actions and then select convert to multi-AZ deployment. Here you can apply the changes during the next maintenance window, or you can apply immediately. For this course, we're going to apply immediately and convert to multi-AZ. So the modification is currently in progress. So this may take a few minutes to complete. So it has been running for about 4 minutes now. Let me refresh. The modification is still in progress. So my instance is now available after about 10 minutes. So let's select the DB identifier for a minute. Let's go under configuration, scroll down, and under availability. For the multi-AZ, you'll be seeing it saying yes, and your secondary zone is US East 2A. And when we go back to the main console, we'll see that our primary database is in US East 2C. So if your instance needs to fail over for any reason, it will switch over to the secondary location without you having to do anything. You could perform a manual failover to your other region when you perform a reboot of your instance. So for instance, when you select action, reboot, and then select reboot with failover, then the DB instance will failover. So if we're supposed to access our DB instance while it is being rebooted, we should be able to connect to our database just the same. Let's refresh. So you can see I can still access my DVD rental database. Expand transport public, and as you can see I can still access everything. However, my database is still in a rebooting state. I just refresh and it's still rebooting. So a multi-AZ deployment will be helpful where you need to minimize your downtime, right? Whenever you are making certain changes to your database instance. So for example, you want to change a static parameter in the parameter group, then when you reboot your instance, your secondary database becomes available to take on the operation of the primary without the users being significantly impacted. So I just did another refresh and my database is still rebooting.